welcome to The Green Pretenders,
a sustainably challenged podcast.
That was my friend Simon.
And this is my friend Sian. And then this podcast, we are actually going to explore what it means to live more sustainably. We're going to discover things that we're doing maybe wrong and how we can change these things and make them better.
But an important disclaimer that we must make. We're not experts, we're not scientists, and we're not environmentalists by profession. We're just very normal, average Joes and Josephines, if you will. I am a performer and I'm in marketing, and I've done a lot of waitressing in my time. Simon?
I'm also a performer. I work in customer service a lot of the time. I teach German a little bit.
So as you can see, we're jacks of trades, and we're going to try and be master of one, which is living sustainably and openly and honestly.
We both live in London.
We do, yeah.
In the capital.
And we're both in North London specifically, which is quite a nice place to be, wouldn't you say, Simon?
It is very nice. I like it.
Yeah, but right now we're actually sitting in my office in Southwark, and you may hear some traffic pass by. You may hear some people shouting on the street. You may hear a horrible echo in this room. So apologies in advance for all of you purists out there. So what can you expect from this podcast?
We're going to focus on the small things rather than the big things going on, like politically or, system changes. We're going to discover, for example, how to use less plastic or, how to integrate sustainable things into our daily lives to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. You're always saying to me, Simon, reduce, reuse, recycle. Those are things that are going to come up a lot in this podcast.
Yes.
But the main thing is we're not experts, and this is just about the everyday. So if we say things that aren't true, or if there's a way that you know that we can be better, then let's share our journeys and our tips and tricks together.
Yeah, and our knowledge. And also, Sian and I could be doing this at our houses and just be doing this for ourselves, but we want to put it out there so that actually people can engage and learn from us, and we can learn from people.
Do you think, Simon, have you always been engaged with the environment? Is this something that has always bothered you or interested you?
That's a good question. I don't think, not as a child. I think I didn't really care about the environment as a child. I didn't really care about animals as a child. I think I was quite a vicious child. I never burnt like ants or anything like that.
Okay, no putting cats in bins or anything?
No,
okay.
I did not do such things. But I think it was my sister. My sister was always a little bit better at everything. But she was always like really concerned about the environment and concerned about recycling and things like that. I'm from Austria originally, so I'm not from the UK. And I do think that in Austria, the eco wave started a little bit earlier. And so my parents, especially my mum, has sort of always, as far as I can remember, always been very concerned about sustainability and eco-friendly things. I'm not saying that Austria is doing it better as such, but,
Maybe you just got a head start.
Yeah.
Did your mum used to influence you in specific things, like, Simon, you really need to recycle that, or stop wasting water, or turn off the lights? Were there habits in your house that were ingrained in you from a young age?
Yes, I think so. One big one is turning off the lights, turning off like devices like the TV and things like that. Also, boil water with the lid on.
Oh.
Which so many people don't do. Still, and this is something that always baffles me.
I don't do that.
But it boils much quicker and it saves energy. This is the first thing that we're going to learn today.
I actually had a talking to from my partner the other day for using a saucepan to boil water at all. Because he said, why on earth aren't you just boiling it in the kettle and then pouring it into the pan to cook your pasta, because the kettle's more efficient, it's quicker. And I just didn't have an answer for that. I was just like, it's habit. That's all I can say to you. I don't know.
And that's actually such a good point, I think, for this podcast in general. Like, we're gonna discover a lot of things that are habits, and then we're gonna try and change that, and that is so difficult.
You're gonna have your work cut out for you with me. I can tell you that now.
Yes.
But if I can now commit to boiling water with the lid on, as you've advised, or using the kettle,
yes,
I will do that.
Yeah.
That's my first promise, my first pledge.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Big moment.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
the kettle thing is a good point. Yeah, I started doing that now as well.
And so what does your sister do now? If she was someone when you were growing up that was a bit of an influence in terms of being a bit more of an activist in this world, would you say? What's she doing now?
She's actually a sports scientist and a yoga teacher. I guess that kind of goes with that. She's a Buddhist.
Yeah, being holistic and
Yes.
caring about the body and
Yeah, but I think in terms of sustainability, actually, I'm quite proud because I think we leveled out a bit. Like I caught up. Like I got so into it, and I think when I was a teenager, I got really into the issue of climate change, and I started reading up a lot on that, and yeah.
Do you remember a pivotal moment of seeing something or seeing a piece of evidence that made you realise that there's something very wrong going on?
Yes, I think it was when I saw An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. Which is such a good film. Go out there, watch it, and then watch the sequel, but watch the first part first.
I haven't watched that, so that's my second
Yes,
homework.
another pledge.
2 pieces of homework for me.
It's a really good film. And he, in this film, explains how climate change is such a big thing, and we just don't quite realise that it is going on. He uses this analogy of like a frog sitting in water, and the water is gradually being boiled. And the frog doesn't realise for ages until it's kind of almost too late. Whereas if he dipped his toe into boiling water, he'd immediately realise that it's too hot and he wouldn't go in there. But because it's such a gradual, big, humongous thing, we just don't realise. And I think that really, opened my eyes.
That is such a good analogy. And someone was telling me about that the other day, and then it made us start talking about whether lobsters get boiled alive or whether they get boiled gradually, and if they're part of the frog analogy. But I think that might be a tangent, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But do you think he actually did boil a frog to get that analogy? It's just such a random thing. Why a frog? Why not any other animal?
I'd like to think that Al Gore did not boil. No animals were harmed making this film.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have never met him personally. But how about you, Sian? Enough about me.
Similarly, I think my upbringing was incidentally eco-friendly. My mum and stepdad they're hippies at heart. So we've always gone on camping holidays, and I've been quite used to just kind of mucking in with things, which I think does go hand in hand a bit.
I think so,
because, you don't get used to an overly materialistic way of living. We would go camping and we'd cook on a fire, and so I would say they instilled in me an understanding of living a life that's a bit more conscious of things. I did often get told to turn off the lights, but we weren't an eco-conscious house. It was all incidental. And I think probably for me, it was when I went to university when it really kicked in, because I met some people at uni who were so passionate, so amazing, and actually some of them now run a food waste cafe up in the northeast.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so great. It's called Refuse, and it's like refuse to do this anymore, refuse to overuse, but it's also refuse, like the word for rubbish.
Yeah.
And also they put the F above a hyphen, so then it kind of looks like reuse when it's written down.
That's amazing.
It's so great.
So shout out to them. Where if anyone's listening to this and they're in the northeast, where can they find them?
They're in Chesterley Street. I think it's Font Street is the road itself, and they've got a beautiful big cafe. They run themed nights where you can drop in. All the cafes just open most days to go and hang out and eat their delicious food. They also take volunteers from the local area, and so it's become a real community space as well.
That's amazing.
It's real, people go because they like the company and they just like being somewhere where there's such a good, nurturing environment. So it ticks so many boxes. So long story short, going to university and meeting people like these amazing people who have set up that charity, it really did kick me up a gear in terms of understanding what's it all about, and what's going wrong.
And I think the passion you mentioned is such a good point, because I think I feel that passion in myself when I'm doing this, actually, because I feel like I'm doing something. Also, when I'm recycling, it sounds really, it sounds a bit funny, he's really passionate about his recycling, but that's kind of what people say about me, and I'm embracing that. I'm proud of that. and I kind of want to share that passion.
Yeah, I hope you wouldn't mind me saying this, but when I first met you, which was about 5 or 6 years ago now, I did see that passion in you, and at that point I even thought it was quite like an extreme character type. I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. He's so earthy, and he's so got it right in terms of how to go about this, because you did things then that I would never dream of doing, and you were so conscious of reusing your food and the way that you purchase things, just everything. So yeah, I definitely saw that in you.
Thank you.
And so you were probably the next stage of my inspiration process.
Ooh.
To try and start putting my money where my mouth is a bit more.
I love that.
Yeah, maybe at uni I was emotionally engaged with it. But then, yeah, spending a year with you at drama school, and after we came out of drama school, I started to try and do things more practically, actually tangibly doing stuff, not just pretending to care. Which is ironic considering we are now the Green Pretenders.
Yes.
So, yes, in this podcast every week, we are going to give you a feature called Eco Whoop.
And Eco Poo.
Yes, that should be the little jingle. Eco Poo.
Eco Poo.
And this is our chance to look back on recent weeks, recent days, and pick out something that has either made us really happy, something that we've been proud of, something that we've seen that's inspired us. That's going to be our Eco Whoop. And for the Eco Poop, we will talk about something that has either really got on our nerves, that we've seen in the news, something that we think is just not going well, or something that we personally have just not done
right. Yeah, just failed at.
Yeah, a pitfall, an obstacle, a hurdle. So to kick it off with our inaugural Eco Whoop and
Eco Poop.
Simon, what's your Eco Whoop?
My Eco Whoop is something that I've seen now for a while. It's actually the paper bags for bread and the little veggie bags. I've seen them at Sainsbury's. So I don't want to give Sainsbury's a big shout out. Hopefully other shops are doing that as well. But I think it's a really good thing. Because
when you say veggie bags, do you mean paper bags for veg as well?
No, they're like fabric bags where you can put all the loose veg in, so you can then put it on the till to weigh them.
And then are they expecting that you reuse that?
Reuse them.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. And I think they're see-through because for some reason we always need to see what we're buying. We've talked about this before. It's a bit ridiculous that these paper bags for bread actually have a little plastic window.
Yeah.
In case you forgot, that's right. It wasn't onions, it was bread that I put in this.
Yeah, or maybe it's for people that just like to show off their recent purchase, so they can walk down the street with their almond croissant.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just peeping out through that little plastic window. Yeah, and everyone's seeing it through the window and knowing that you're very cultured with your pastry. But no more for these people at Sainsbury's, you're telling me.
No.
They cannot show off their pastry guys.
Paper bag.
That's great.
Paper bag.
So that means you can get your pastry in your paper bag, and that paper bag can be no fuss recycled.
Recycled or composted.
Oh.
Yeah, it can rot.
Okay. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Rot.
I love it. Because that does confuse me sometimes in terms of the balance between one material and another, because paper production has a higher carbon footprint than plastic.
Yes.
So if you're going to single use paper all the time, other than the fact that paper rots and plastic doesn't, there's just so many things to weigh up, Simon. I am confused.
And it is confusing, and I think we need to sort of differentiate between... I mean, we're going to go on a huge tangent here, but I think we need to differentiate between the different goals. Because, yes, one thing is that there's too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, there's also a lot of plastic in the oceans, and the one thing has something to do with the other, but they're not the same. If I want to reduce CO2, then I can ban diesel cars and I can go all the way for, electric vehicles and all that stuff. I can still, though, throw my plastic right in the ocean because that doesn't actually produce any CO2. So there's different goals we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, so it's about looking at the object itself, looking at the problems it causes and your use for it, and weighing up all of those things. So yes, paper has a higher CO2 emission than plastic in its production, but it won't end up in the sea or, you know, choking a cow in the middle of a beautiful field in Somerset or whatever. And it's about weighing up what's best in that context.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we are happy in this case that in the context of Sainsbury's bread bags, it's a good thing that they've moved to paper bags.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
And because the bags previously were paper plus plastic.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of the plastic. Yeah, we're very happy about that.
I love it.
What is your eco whoop?
My eco whoop is the fact that KFC are doing a vegan burger.
Oh my god!
Oh,
You know, all the meat eaters are never ever going to go back to KFC.
You say that, it is astounding, right? I was on Twitter and KFC announced it. The amount of people that react to the announcement that KFC are offering a non-compulsory vegan alternative, people react to that as if they are being force-fed soya until they literally throw up. They're reacting as if they've been told that they may never eat the Colonel's secret recipe crispy chicken ever again in their lives. And I'm like, come on, chill out. It's a different thing.
I know, right?
Choice.
It's not. We're not taking anything away.
no.
The vegans are not taking anything away from anyone.
We're not taking your meat away. I'm not a vegan. So yeah.
I'm not vegan. I aspire to be, but I'm not actually.
An aspiring vegan.
An aspiring vegan. So many aspiring things.
But for me, this is such an eco route because one of my weaknesses with food is my mood. Mm-hmm. And if I'm really down or if I'm really hungover, I do find myself craving things that traditionally come meat-based, like crispy, fried, fatty, gross, tasty, salty things. Yes. And sometimes I'm like, there's no choice, there's no option because there's a KFC right there and I can just go in and get some popcorn chicken. Or I can spend half an hour trying to find a satisfying alternative that's non-meat.
Yeah.
And often my willpower isn't strong enough for the latter. But this means now I can walk into that KFC, get that crispy chicken or the crispy vegan chicken, which is a soy-based burger I've read. And I tried it at the weekend and it was bloody great. It was tasty, it was salty, it was everything I wanted from a KFC style burger. So that's my eco whip of the week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great one. I think in general, this is progress. I think so.
Yeah, and maybe a cynic would say that they're just offering it to be trendy or to... Some people would say, oh, they're only doing it to, you know, convince vegans to shop there. And I'm like, well, isn't that a good thing? That's the whole fucking point. That everyone can now buy something that they like. And there's a whole other thing, maybe KFC are just nasty and we shouldn't be supporting them in any way. But I love that crispy, tasty.
I love me some chicken.
The Colonel says it's good.
Good.
So yeah, that's my eco whoop. Thank you, KFC. What's your eco poop of the week?
My eco poop. You know, we are recording this in the season of winter.
We are. It's cold.
It's so cold.
It's actually been raining for a lot of today. It's been absolutely vile.
It's been so bad. I cycle. It's so bad. Anyway, my eco poop is overheating. Why? You know, people who overheat their flats.
Right,
people who think, ooh, I'm gonna, you know, I want to feel like I'm in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
At home in my flip-flops and my shorts and topless. And that's why they crank up the heating to a bazillion degrees. They want to be fried chicken. I think that's what they want to be.
They want to be that.
They want to be the Colonel's fat chicken. Guys, give up that dream. Turn down the heating. Put on a bloody jumper.
Yeah.
Because it's not good. It's actually not good for your body. You're more likely to be ill if you overheat, especially at night, and then you go out and it's really cold. I think your body's just confused, and I think the temperature goes down over the winter months. I think we're used to that, and by just turning down literally a few degrees, it can make such a difference. on your energy bill as well.
Oh, that is a good point.
You save a lot of money, actually.
What do you think is the optimum temperature for a thermostat in a British winter?
So, this is controversial, but so I went to Sustainability Day. I've actually been twice now in Hackney, it's the borough I live in, and they've told me it's 18 degrees.
18.
18.
That sounds low.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit low, but I think, anything it's sort of 19, 20 probably. It's not 22. A lot of people think it's 22, but 22 is actually too high.
That sounds high. I think probably I've opted in the past for the kind of 19 to 21 bracket.
Yeah.
But okay, 18. And then I guess, you just get a nice consistent temperature. Your body acclimatizes. And who doesn't love feeling really cozy in maybe 3 pairs of socks and some slippers and a onesie and a jumper and a scarf and a hat indoors? That's no bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Plus, we live in London, so there's no such thing as insulation or...
No. I really like the point that it saves on your energy bill, because I love a thing that then doesn't feel like you're kind of self-sacrificing or having to be some kind of martyr. If you're doing something which is environmentally a good choice, and you can also convince your inner demons by saying,
you save a few bucks.
You'll save a few bucks. Don't resent this choice. It's good for you on more than one level. So I like that.
Right. What is yours?
My eco poop. Well, I have a confession to make. Yeah, that guy knows it. Toot, toot. My confession is that I'm not really a digital age person. I find it really hard to digitalize in general. I need things to be kind of tangible. I need endless notebooks, stationery, and just writing things down, being able to color code, and I can't keep things in my head otherwise. So specifically, I've got a big fat notebook right in front of me here, Simon. You can attest to that.
Yes, I can. And in fact, I do too.
You actually do. So maybe we can share this eco poop. Even just like trying to plan this podcast, for example, or if I'm writing shopping lists, I find that I need to write it down with a pen onto a piece of paper. So I could be saving a lot of paper if I were to just try and digitalize my brain a bit. But it feels like a real disconnect and I just can't get around to it. So that is my eco poop, something that I'm kind of feeling a bit guilty about, that I could just make a simple decision to change, but I can't.
Yeah. And I think that's real green pretender
Realness.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And that's guys, that's what we're sort of about,
And actually, a slight tangent from my eco poop is that at work we have these things called rocket books, and they are essentially like little whiteboards in a notebook form, so you can write in them, but then you wipe it clean and you reuse that page. So actually that's a way to get around this. If you're someone that does need to write things down and see the written word on the page, you could use a rocket book like this. But in true Green Pretender style, I was questioning, is this actually a good solution, or does it just feel like one? Because I was thinking about the fact that these things must cost a lot to make. They're like these thick plastic binder thingies. And they're made somewhere abroad, I think, so shipping them over here. So I was thinking, how many basic paper notebooks would I not have to use to even out the footprint and the kind of resource impact of this rocket book malarkey?
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Because that probably uses a lot of energy.
A lot of energy to produce it and to ship it. So at that point I spiraled out completely and, just drank some alcohol.
As you do.
Yeah. I've actually been in touch with the people at Rocketbook just to allay anyone's fears. I'm not just leaving that question out in the ether. I got in touch with them on Twitter. I think I asked them, how many trees do you save per Rocketbook? And what's the carbon footprint of your production system? Quite vague questions, and unsurprisingly they didn't know the answer to that, but they've given me an email address. So you may await the response with bated breath. I'll update you as soon as possible on the Rocketbook sitch.
Yes, please do. To be continued.
So, hopefully you've got a bit of an idea of how we're going to go about this. A bit of rambling, a bit of information, a bit of guilt, but also a little bit of celebrating the things that we're trying our best to do and change.
Exactly. It's the small wins that we celebrate.
Yeah.
And should.
What's that thing? It takes 1 million snowflakes to make an avalanche or something. There's that saying about a snowflake is such a tiny, tiny thing, but
Yeah.
put a lot of them together and you make an avalanche.
Avalanche, yeah.
Even though I guess now snowflake has a bit of a negative connotation, but
That's true.
hey, maybe we are snowflakes
Maybe
in more
we
ways
are.
than one. I'm easily offended and I'm doing my bit. So yeah, if you would like to hear more of this, you can find us on Twitter.
At Green Pretenders.
You can find us on Instagram.
At Green Pretenders.
You can find us on Facebook.
At Green Pretenders.
Or you can email us.
thegreenpretenders@gmail.com. If you have any ideas, comments, and tips, please get in touch.
Absolutely. And tune in next time. But for now, the pod is always greener.
Green pretender.